Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
We're glad you're on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it and give this video a like.
Yep. Also, subscribe to our podcast down below in the description.
We're sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka.
#1 vodka in America.
Check out in the description, nokidhungry.org/ham. We've got a big fundraising campaign going with them.
Yes, we do. We're in for $10,000. Our friends at Tito's are in for $5,000, and our friends at a restaurant called Puesto are in for $2,000. Starting at $17,000. Goal, $25,000. nokidhungry.org/ham. All donations are tax deductible. Anything you can do to help, we greatly appreciate it.
I did not think they could get Lincoln Riley. And I give them a ton of credit for dreaming big, John, but obviously delivering. Now, there are some things about the SC job that either the coach wants to be there or not, regardless of what your pitch is, because there are some inherent things to USC. Location, right? He's recruiting guys. He's recruiting against USC for a lot of players in that area. And he's recruiting against LSU and Alabama and everybody, Clemson, for players in the LA area.
Yeah.
But I also sit back and go, he did just go to USC, as in, if you win at USC, if you return USC to what it was, USC with Pete Carroll and Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart is not just one of the best college football teams of all time. It's just one of the most iconic sports eras of our lives. USC football, that's a thing. Patriots football, that's a thing. The Red Sox thing, right? The Braves of the 90s. Like, that's what USC football. The Lakers, the Celtics, pick all your different eras in those franchises. But it's your boy Anthony Munoz and Marcus Allen and Reggie Bush.
Baselli.
And Baselli and Troy Polamalu and Bruce Matthews and Ronnie Lott and
the Juice.
I mean, and OJ and all, it's like that's where he just went to fight on USC, to the palm trees and LA. And in that sense, I don't think it's that crazy. I don't. I think it's a guy trying to climb a mountain. And this is one hell of a mountain. If you're going to get a shot to take that job and they're going to give you everything you want. Because here's the other thing I'll say about him, and then you can jump in. They have not in recent years hired coaches that
other people wanted.
That other people wanted and that didn't need them as much as they needed that coach. They needed Lincoln Riley more than Lincoln Riley needed USC. And when you hire that type of coach, what you do is, if you're in leadership, if you're the AD, if you're the president, if you're a major booster, you kind of put your own influence over the program at risk. When you hire Clay Helton, when you promote from within, Lane, when you go get Sark, when it's kind of bad at Washington, you're not hiring people who have the power to say no to the entity that is like 72 advisors on the USC board or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Lincoln Riley can say, look, guys, if you say no to me on anything you told me you'd say yes to me on, I'm out. I'll have 5 other job offers in 1 second. And so SC gave up a little of its institutional power, which is what you got to do. You got to give in college, you got to give a football coach the power to know that when he needs something, you say yes. And they just got a guy that has the power to go, if you guys aren't doing what I want, I'm out. And that's good. That's what you got to do. That's called being an adult and recognizing what your program needs. And that's what SC needed. And I give him a ton of credit for getting it.
Yeah, I think it's stunning, man. I mean, I'm floored, honestly, sitting here right now. Yeah, I mean, I and you and I have talked about this. A big problem for a couple weeks ago. I remember reading LA Times wrote an article that even though Chip ended up going 8-4, that they didn't get their money's worth and they're paying $4 million. One issue I've had with the Pac-12, who is my favorite conference, is that it just doesn't feel they're keeping up with the Joneses. They're not spending the money. The Baylor coach could make $7 million. And it costs so much more in our cities. Obviously, in California and in LA, it's astronomical. But even Seattle's really expensive. Now, fucking Arizona's expensive. Colorado's, these are expensive places. It is not expensive to live in Norman, Oklahoma. My guess is we're sitting here, we don't have the information. They gave him $125 million. It would not shock me if it's reported tomorrow he got a $125 million contract. I expect to see something like that.
For how many years?
Yeah, I mean, whatever the math. I mean, who knows? Maybe 110, but it's going to be something that people go wow, right? It's not, they got Lincoln Riley 5 years for $50 million. He was making almost $8 million. It's cheap to live there. I'm sure you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, just type it into Twitter. It's the first coach to leave Oklahoma for another college job since the 40s. Like, guys, you just don't leave that program. They have unlimited resources. They win all the time. They're supportive. It's like the Steelers. That, to me, the most jarring part is he left USC from Oklahoma, right? If the Lincoln Riley equivalent had been at even Texas A&M or, right, an Iowa State like a Matt Campbell, even like a Washington out here on the Arizona State, and it had been the same story, be like, yeah, but left Oklahoma? Because part of it was just he's not going to leave LSU from Oklahoma, because why would he? And it was like, yeah, it makes sense, right? You can make all the money. They run national championships, coaches out of there. Lincoln's a god. It's pretty nuts. And to me, the craziest part, though, guy, is he's from Texas. He worked at Oklahoma for a long time, played at Texas Tech, from Texas, then coached at Eastern Carolina, like that he wanted to come to Los Angeles. Like, that's pretty, I give USC a lot of credit that they got this done, because that's, if you just would ask, even if money was the same, they're like, yeah, I just don't think he'd want to come out here, because he can get the players from out here on his team. Right? He doesn't need to work out here and win.
Yeah.
That's what's shocking to me, that culturally that he chose to come out here.
Yeah, God, there's so many things. I think it's the biggest hire in the history of the Pac-12 football coaching hires. Now, I said that on Twitter, and some people are like, what about Pete Carroll? Yeah, Pete turned into one of the greatest coaches. But when they hired him, he was not this, right? Yeah. To hire this guy, I think Chris Peterson was a big hire. That got people's attention because people had been trying to hire Chris. And look, Pete was an NFL coach, so that was a big hire. But I think hiring Lincoln Riley at his height, right? If you said Lincoln Riley's available, how many programs in America would try and bid on Lincoln Riley? Who wouldn't bid on Lincoln Riley? I mean, Clemson would be good. Alabama would be good. Georgia would be good. Ohio State would be good.
I think there'd be 4 programs.
Cincinnati would be good. Cincinnati would be good. Notre Dame. They couldn't afford Notre Dame would want him probably. I mean, that's why I say I think it is the, hey, we are who we say we are, USC football. Because there's been this debate for 3 months now. Does anybody want that job? Well, not only did somebody want the job, one of the great one of the best coaches in college football, one of the most desirable coaches in college football, wanted the job. And so I think it feels very validating for USC now as well. Like, hey, see? And it doesn't matter. They could have paid him $200 million. People say, oh, they just came for the money. They got him. They
needed it. The conference needed it. I mean, football out here.
Yeah, going to the playoff.
We needed it.
That's right. I did wonder: is this the first coach ever that has the school has lost a coach because they've changed leagues to a better league? I'd be interested to really know. Did he? If Oklahoma was staying in the Big 12, would he have done this?
I think there are going to be some fantastic, like Bruce Feldman, Pete Thamel articles the next month on this, because it is. I think it's one of the most stunning things that's ever happened in our lifetime in college football. Like, Nick Saban left Miami, like, it's like, whatever, the Dolphins, like, you don't leave the Steelers.
It had been rumored. People were asking him about it, right?
But to leave, Nick to go to Alabama. And he denied it. I think the craziest part about Lincoln, and I give his people credit, is that it never caught out that he was interested in USC, because he would have had to answer it. And he never once had to answer about USC. He got very lucky in that sense, right? There's just... Guy, people still make fun of Nick Saban for going, I'm not going to the Dolphins, right? I'm not. And
Lincoln's rep, his rap is that he's not the, slimy kind of lie to everybody's face guy. Although I saw Gabe Eichert, he's on like Oklahoma radio. Like, I think he's on the broadcast, maybe pre-post. I'm not exactly sure, but he's part of their radio network. He said today that he'd been hearing from like the last 2 weeks. He's like, a lot of people are surprised by this. I'm not. I'd been hearing for 2 weeks from other coaches on the staff that like Lincoln was acting a little weird and that some people thought he might have already accepted a job. I think what's really unique about it for SC is if he beats Oklahoma State on Saturday night, then they go to the Big 12 title game, right? Well, he's not taking that job between now and the Big 12 title game. Not with a college football playoff berth on the line, potentially. They probably
if he would have beat Oklahoma State and then beat Baylor, would they have got in?
If he'd beat Oklahoma State, I think they would have played Oklahoma State again next week. It wouldn't have been Baylor.
Oh, that's
and could Cincinnati lose in their conference championship game? Right? I mean, they still would have needed some help.
Oh, so he wouldn't have got like double credit, like two teams. He would have played Oklahoma State twice.
I mean, he would have got some credit for it. But if he was going to the college football playoff, as he's done, you're not hiring him at USC. He can't. He's not leaving.
I think he's done like 3 times, right?
Yeah, so he's not leaving between now and the CFP, and you're not waiting for him. Probably. I mean, if he promised you he's coming, okay, after the national championship game, I'm there. Then maybe you would say, all right, one recruiting class, screw it. We'll let Lincoln just get all his guys in the portal. It'll be fine. But it makes it like it's hard to hire coaches who are in the college football playoff because they're working. They're not walking away from the Holiday Bowl.
Yeah. Right.
So if he beats Oklahoma State Saturday night, is this under wraps for another week? I don't know. It would have been fascinating to find out what. It's not an accident that he lost and then it came out. Maybe it's been done for 2 weeks and he had to make sure he wasn't going to the Big 12 title. You're not announcing it before that. You had to make sure he wasn't going to the playoff. The timing of these things makes it. It's wild. I don't know. Maybe it's been done for 2 weeks, and they were pushing the LSU thing so we could keep denying it. You're right. That's a good theory.
Maybe they were helping him out do that too.
Because he didn't just take the job Saturday night after he got beat.
And maybe one thing that'll come out is one of those deals like, listen, a little Kyle, John Lynch, like if anything gets out, I'm not coming. Like I'm not coming. Like you better show me. Like, can you guys keep your mouth shut? Because the one thing about Lincoln, he is he's 38 years. I mean, he's 1 year older than me.
Quick interruption to tell you about overland.com/ham. Great gift.
Yep. Free shipping, free returns, overland.com/ham. Best slippers I've ever had, guy. For some reason last night, because watching the game, I'm like, hey, he's like 41. I remember he was like 37 a couple weeks. No, he's 38 right now. But when you hear him talk, he does not carry himself like he's in his 30s. He carries himself like he's in his 50s. He is a serious cat. Like he's gonna shake some shit up there. He is not coming in like all fluff, and he doesn't have even the Pete Carroll BS. Like he is not. I think these guys are going to be in for one. He's a hard ass. He's really. He's going to shave it one day. Guy, when you make $15 million and you live in Malibu, it don't matter. It don't matter. It's a very, very big deal. Incredible for college football that it happened, but kind of crazy because like Oklahoma, you'd argue that they want them to be good. Like they're a powerhouse on TV every week, right?
Huge.
They were Herb Street and Fowler's game last night.
Yeah, I mean, but they're the Big 12 for Fox is happy either way. Fox actually is a winner here because Fox.
Yeah, they were going to lose them to the SEC.
They're going to lose them. Now they come to. I mean. Gus, good for Joel Klatt and Gus. They might get to hang in L.A. a few more days instead of going to Columbus every week.
I would say this. Lincoln's next job is the NFL. I underestimated his ambition. Not that he wasn't an ambitious person and not that he was content, but sometimes you just get like, if you become the number 2 guy at Facebook, like you don't need to be like, jump to another job. Be like, hey, I can make hundreds of millions of dollars here. Life's pretty good. Like I can win a national championship here, make an unlimited amount of money. I can go to the Cowboys from here. Clearly he thought, or just saw an easier path, because it is an easier path.
Yeah, but you're right.
And I don't mean that to diminish him leaving. It just is like I can build up the same team here even better and kick everyone's ass.
In some ways, it's easier. In other ways, he's leaving a place where he had everything that he wanted to go to a place that's been struggling to find it. When he took over Oklahoma, they were not struggling to find it when he took over for Bob Stoops, right? It was the engine was already running. That's not to diminish what Lincoln's done. But in some ways, it's harder. Now, in theory, it's easier than the SEC would be if he gets it rolling to win that league every year because it's proven to be wide open. But you're right. It's great for everybody else in the Pac-12. If you're Washington now, I actually think like if you're Washington now, you're like, all right, well, I don't know what they were thinking, but maybe they have to turn the dial up a couple notches on who they're going to hire. Oregon, it's good for Oregon in the end. Like you want to be in a league with other good teams. It elevates you. Utah, fascinating. It's great for the Pac-12. It's great for West Coast football. I think it helps the other team. If all the kids are going to leave LA and the only way they can stay is if SC keeps them, then it's good that SC is good because now if I'm recruiting a kid from LA and I'm Oregon, Now I come to the Coliseum to play USC, and they're ranked 6th, and I'm ranked 14th. And now maybe the kid's thinking about me too, because the SC game matters. So it's like, hey, you come play for me. We're going to come play USC twice in your career, or whatever the case is. It to me, it actually kind of helps other teams in the league have a shot at the LA kids. Now, look, ideally, the LA kids just stay. It doesn't matter who they go to. You'd love for him to go to SC. But he had multiple. I love reading the replies because I think the Oklahoma people are shell-shocked, understandably so. I kind of feel for him. And some of the replies to one of the tweets was like, next level thinking. He's been recruiting California kids on Oklahoma's dime, only to get them to decommit when he goes to USC. It's just incredible.
I mean,
who's Oklahoma going to hire?
He also
Venables at Clemson does not seem like he wants to be a head coach.
Yeah,
he's happy being the DC.
The other thing with Lincoln, though, I would imagine he does have a young family. Like his wife would have to have also wanted to be a part of this and wanted to live there. Like it's I doubt if she was like, I do not want to leave. He leaves. Maybe he convinced her, but she would have to want to live out there. Now, obviously, they have so much money they can live in the nicest spots. But the risky thing is that he would not have committed if he didn't get the going rate for a good coordinator. He's going to try to win national championships. He's not comparing himself to Washington or Cal, right? He is comparing himself to Oregon, but not necessarily like DeRuyter. I think we found he makes $750,000.
I think it was
Venables
$825
or $825, and probably with some bonuses, he'll end up getting around $1 million.
Yeah.
Venables makes $2 million, right? And I think the top guys at some different schools, I think the going rate for the elite school, an elite guy would be $1.25. Well, at a lot of these universities, it's much cheaper to live. So he has to be whoever I want, do I have $2 million to get a defensive coordinator? Because that's the best part about him, his offensive staff, he is the play caller, and he is the quarterback coach, basically, right? So it's that, we always talk about this in the NFL. Think of what a huge advantage that is to have. It's why I hated the James Franklin. I'm he's just all fluff, and he doesn't coach either side of the ball. He's never even called plays. So you got to give him a shitload of money for his offensive and defensive coordinator. All I need is okay, get $2 million for a defensive coordinator. That's the going rate. And really, if the going rate's 1-1, but it's fucking LA. It's really expensive. It's outrageously expensive, guy. I mean, where we live is the same way. That is not normal for these college coaches that are making $800,000 coaching linebackers in Tuscaloosa.
Right.
That's a huge. That to me is where I'm so shell shocked. He could get a position coach to come to Norman, Oklahoma for $500,000. USC would have to pay that same guy double. And honestly, it's more than double. Now, obviously, he's not going to get but I think triple the salary.
I also do think part of the job when you're a position coach, especially coordinators, you could throw a ton of money at coordinators. Position coaches, a lot of decisions do come down to money, but I think every position coach wants to be a coordinator, and so going to coach for Lincoln Riley, I think, is going to have an inherent dollar value on it for guys where he doesn't necessarily have to offer the most money to a position coach.
For sure. But it's if I'm making $500,000 in the SEC, you can't pay me $500,000 to come. If I'm coaching for Saban or even Arkansas or some of these places, I'm winning. It's a dramatic downgrade in lifestyle. That's where I'm just, and we're talking, this is a lot of money. You make $500,000, it's a lot of money in California, but these guys are making that in the ACC, the SEC, the Big Ten. It's just way cheaper to live. I can't even imagine what they guaranteed him for his staff. It had to be a lot.
Because it should be. Are you trying to compete or not?
What's been my beef with the Pac-12? You can't complain about $4 million coach. If you're gonna have $4 million coaches, you're gonna get rolled. We need more $7, $8, $9, $10 million coaches out here.
Well, you got to make more money. You got to go to the playoff. You got to get better TV deals. Lincoln Riley might have just changed the whole trajectory of the Pac-12 by coming to USC.